Hello there.
The screen is dark for a heartbeat too long. Then, the sound fades in, not a roar, but a silver hum. It's the sound of a house breathing when no one else is in it. You're lying on the floor, or maybe the sofa, and the only clock in the room is suddenly the loudest thing you own. Tick, tick, tick. It isn't an aggressive sound. It's just a reminder that time is passing, and for once, you aren't trying to catch it. Outside the window, the world is doing what it does best, rushing. You can hear the muffled, rhythmic shushing of tires on wet pavement, that specific, lonely sound of a distant car driving through a puddle. But inside, the air feels different. It feels thick, honey-slow, and entirely yours. There is a specific kind of light that only exists when you're alone. It's that late afternoon amber that creeps across the floorboards, illuminating the tiny, dancing dust motes that usually go unnoticed in the friction of a busy life. You watch them. You don't check your phone. You don't wonder if you should be elsewhere. You just exist in the middle of a silence so heavy it feels like a physical presence, a soft blanket draped over your shoulders. For a long time, we've been taught to fear this silence. We've been told that a room with only one person in it is a room missing something. We equate alone with emptiness, as if our value is only reflected in the eyes of someone else. We treat solitude like a waiting room, a place you sit through until the real life, the social life, begins again. But look around. Feel the cool press of the floor against your spine. Notice how your thoughts, usually jagged and interrupted, begin to stretch out and breathe. This isn't a void. This is a homecoming. We are about to explore the subtle, shimmering difference between the ache of loneliness and the profound, quiet joy of simply being. I think we carry around this invisible mirror all day. When we are with friends, or at work, or even just standing in line at a coffee shop, we are constantly checking that mirror. We are adjusting our posture, filtering our thoughts, and fine-tuning our expressions to make sure we are performing the version of ourselves that the world expects to see. It's exhausting, honestly. It's a low-grade mental tax we pay just to exist in a community. But the moment the door clicks shut and the world is locked outside, that mirror shatters. And the relief. It's almost medicinal. There's a beautiful concept in philosophy called solitude, which is distinct from loneliness. Loneliness is a hunger. It's a gap between the social connection you want and the connection you have. It's a cold room. But solitude is a full room. It's when you finally become your own guest. It's the difference between being thirsty and savoring a glass of water. Think of your mind like a lake. During the day, people are constantly throwing stones into it. Emails, conversations, expectations. Did you see that news story? Every stone creates a ripple, and eventually, the surface is so choppy you can't see what's at the bottom. Being alone is simply waiting for the ripples to settle. It's the time it takes for the silt to sink to the floor until the water becomes so clear you can finally see the sand, the smooth stones, and the quiet life happening underneath the surface. If you find yourself craving this, please know that it isn't a sign that you're antisocial or that there's some defect in your ability to connect. It's actually a sign of health. It's your internal system asking for a recalibration. We need these pockets of nothingness to remember where the world ends and where we begin. Without them, we just become a mosaic of other people's opinions and moods. In the stillness, you aren't a daughter, a boss, a student, or a partner. You are just a person, breathing in a room, and that is more than enough. It's okay to like the version of yourself that no one else gets to see. I remember a Tuesday about 3 years ago. It wasn't a landmark day by any calendar. No birthdays, no tragedies, just a Tuesday that felt particularly loud. My head was a crowded terminal of should-haves and could-be-betters. I walked into my apartment, dropped my keys on the wooden bowl by the door with a sharp clack, and just stopped. I didn't turn on the lights. I didn't reach for the remote to fill the space with the artificial chatter of a sitcom. I walked into the kitchen and put the kettle on. As the water began to hum toward a boil, I stood by the counter and watched the steam start to curl up from the spout, catching a stray beam of street lamp light from the window. It looked like ghost smoke. In that moment, I realized I hadn't been truly alone with myself in weeks. I'd been alone in transit, or alone while scrolling through thousands of other people's lives on a glass screen, but I hadn't been present in my own silence. I took my mug to the window seat. The radiator was clanking, that rhythmic, metallic tick-tick-tick of expanding iron, and the window pane was cold against my forehead. Outside, the city was a blur of neon oranges and brake light reds. I watched a man across the street struggle with a grocery bag that eventually split, spilling apples across the wet sidewalk. Normally, I would have felt a surge of second-hand anxiety for him, or felt the urge to record it, or wondered what it meant. But instead, I just watched. I felt my own breath fogging the glass, then disappearing. Fogging, then disappearing. I felt a strange, prickly vulnerability. It's intimidating to realize that when you strip away your job title, your social obligations, and your digital footprint, there is still a you left over. I sat there for an hour, just drinking tea that had eventually gone stone cold. I didn't solve any great mysteries of my life. I didn't come up with a brilliant business idea. I just let my mind be messy. I thought about a blue bike I had when I was 6. I thought about the way moss feels like velvet. I let the boredom come, and instead of running from it, I sat with it until it turned into something else, a quiet, steady heat in my chest. I realized then that I had been running from my own company because I was afraid I'd find out I was boring. But in that blue-shadowed kitchen, I found out that I don't need to be interesting for myself. I just need to be there. I felt a profound sense of safety, not because the world was kind, but because I realized my own mind could be a sanctuary instead of a courtroom. We often treat our lives like a house where we are constantly hosting a party. We keep the lights bright, the music up, and the fridge stocked, terrified that if the guests ever leave, we'll be stuck with the mess and the silence. But the more I've leaned into these solitary moments, the more I've realized that being alone isn't about the absence of others. It's about the presence of oneself. It's a subtle shift in perspective, like finally finding the focal point on a camera lens. Suddenly, the blur sharpens. I've started to see my time alone not as a gap to be filled, but as a space to be inhabited. There's a certain kind of bravery in being unobserved. When no one is watching, you don't have to be good at anything. You can dance badly to a song you'd never admit to liking. You can stare at a single leaf for 10 minutes. You can let your face fall into its natural, resting sadness without anyone asking if you're okay. What I've learned, and what I'm still learning, is that this quiet joy is actually a form of self-trust. It's the radical act of deciding that your own company is sufficient. We spend so much of our energy trying to be liked by the world, but we rarely stop to ask if we actually like the person we are when the world isn't looking. Peace doesn't arrive with a fanfare. It doesn't come from a grand realization or a perfectly curated morning routine. It arrives in the small, mundane stretches of time where you stop fighting the stillness. It's the moment you realize that the silence isn't judging you. The walls of your room aren't disappointed in your lack of productivity. The air doesn't care if you've achieved your goals for the day. When you stop treating your solitude as a problem to be solved, it transforms. It stops being a desert and starts being a garden. You begin to realize that you are not a project to be finished or a void to be filled. You are a person to be known. And sometimes, the only way to truly meet yourself is to clear the room, turn down the noise, and just wait. It's in that waiting that the quiet joy begins to bloom, unforced and steady, like a small light in a very large, very peaceful room. So, the next time the house goes quiet, or the plans fall through, or the city feels a little too wide and you feel a little too small, don't rush to fill the gap. Don't reach for the noise just to drown out the sound of your own breathing. Let the evening settle around you. Let the shadows stretch long across the floorboards until they touch the far wall. There is a specific kind of grace in being the only witness to your own life. It is a quiet, steady pulse, like the glow of a pilot light in the dark. It's the realization that you are not a hole in the fabric of the world, but a vital, intricate part of it, even when you are standing perfectly still. We are so used to being on, to being nodes in a network, voices in a choir, faces in a crowd. But there is a sacredness in being off. In the soft, unhurried space of your own company, you can finally put down the heavy armor of your identity. You can just be. As you move back into the world, try to carry a little piece of this stillness with you. Treat it like a secret you keep in your pocket, a reminder that no matter how loud the world gets, you always have a home to return to within yourself. Take a breath. Listen to the room. What if the silence isn't something you're lost in, but something you've finally found?
Thank you for listening, and see you in the next story.